it's your boy Luke, back again for another NFL Showdown video, this time for our Thursday night football matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals. It's going to be an absolute shootout out there in the desert. We've got Aaron Rodgers going over with the Packers, and of course Kyler Murray, who's already an MVP candidate. Unfortunately for the Packers, a few COVID injuries coming down the stretch. They have Davante Adams, Lazard not going to be playing. So as a result, a little bit of an interesting pricing scenario over on Draftkings because the pricing did come out before those injuries were announced. So we've got some cheap options on the Packers. Of course, we can pay up for the stud options over on the Cardinals. So overall, what we'll do in this video is we'll go through an injury report, we'll go through the over-under, game flows, that type of thing, and finish it up with my favorite stud options for each team, our favorite value plays for this slate, and of course, our selections for the captain slot. So essentially everything you guys need to know for this single game slate. But with that being said, let's start it off with our injury report here for the Thursday night football game. As I've already alluded to in the introduction, we have a couple COVID concerns here for the Packers. First and foremost, Davante Adams not going to be playing, was already rolled out on Monday. We also have Lazard, who was added to the COVID list as well. He's unvaccinated, but somebody who was a close contact, so will not be playing here on Thursday night. In terms of other injuries for this team, we have Jair Alexander, who was added to the IR, one of their best defenders, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, period. So definitely going to harm that defense. Valdes-Scantling might get activated from the IR. He is on the plane charter over to Arizona. They're expected to make that decision by about 4 p.m. tomorrow. So whenever we hear about that, we are going to have a live stream tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be able to talk about that then. So if he's active, definitely going to be a good value play as he's relatively cheap. But as of right now, I am acting like he is not active. He's somebody who has not practiced since being added to IR. Has also not practiced since being designated to return from IR. So again, a true game time decision. As of right now, I haven't projected out. Kevin King is going to be questionable. Same thing with Preston Smith for this defense. And Dennis Kelly, offensive tackle, is doubtful. So probably not going to play Thursday. In terms of the Cardinals side of things, we have J.J. Watt already been rolled out. Has not practiced to this week, so that was a little bit expected. Hopkins is still questionable, still on the injury report as of today, but expected to play. He's played through the injury every single game here to this point, so we do not expect that to change. In terms of other injuries for this Cardinals team, we have Max Garcia questionable, Darrell Daniels, and Rashard Lawrence all questionable. All of them are game time decisions, so we will have to see come the injury report tomorrow afternoon. In terms of a spread, in terms of a game total here, we have a high scoring affair. We already knew that. A 50.5 point over under. Also sizable favorites for the Cardinals. Also relatively expected. They are 6.5 point favorites here over the Packers, and I personally agree with that. Obviously dealing with some injuries on the Packers side, not going to have the best wide receiver in the NFL active. So it's not like I think that offense isn't going to score. I definitely still think there's some production there. Just the Cardinals are almost unbeatable. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They have a top 10 defense to this point. Obviously, probably the most explosive offense in the NFL. Tom Brady might have something to say about that, but it's essentially 1A, 1B right there between those two. So for me, I do think this is going to be a high-scoring showdown slate. We're going to get plenty of passing yardage, plenty of touchdowns in this game. And overall, we're looking for just high-scoring players. People excluding defenses, probably not looking at defenses, probably not looking at tight ends unless they're touchdown dependent, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. But for our stud options here, at number 3, we have Robert Tonyan of the Packers, somebody who's here just based on opportunity. We don't have many stud options for this team in general. Obviously, with Lazard out, same thing with Davante Adams. So at $4,600, he's definitely going to see a little bit more action than he's used to. You have a bunch of targets opened up in that offense, and Robert Tonyan's more of a short route specialist. Definitely Davante Adams. Part of his specialty is those short routes, so I expect a few of the looks to go his way. You can see he's projected for 17.8% ownership, which isn't anything crazy. You're definitely able to get leverage on somebody like that, and a respectable projection there at 13.4 points. At number 2, we have Aaron Rodgers at $11,400, so obviously a little bit more expensive there, but Aaron Rodgers is in a good spot here against this Arizona defense. And while they have been a good defense to this point in the year, this is a high over-under game. We're expecting these offenses to go out, put up some points. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is like every other quarterback in the league. This is an elite quarterback, one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks in terms of all arm talent in the entire league. So at 72.7% ownership, that is something I'm willing to stomach. I'm essentially going to try and squeeze them either at the flex spot or at captain in every lineup that I have. You can see projected for 22.7 points. Definitely a solid floor. Probably true 30-point ceiling as well. But at number 1, our best play on this team, and it's not particularly close, it's going to be Aaron Jones and even $9,000. Obviously, the pricing came out before the injuries. So Aaron Jones, if this had been rolled out before then would probably be $11,000 or even $12,000 on the slate. As a result, it's only $9,000, making it one of the best point per dollar plays that we've seen to this point of the year in terms of Showdown. So definitely guarding ownership. Can be owned in over 40% of lineups, but that's well warranted in my opinion. I mean, we have Davante Adams coming out of the offense, same thing with Lazard, which is over a 50% target share for this team. And anytime that we've seen Davante Adams out in the past, it's about a 3 or 4 game sample size over these last few years. Aaron Jones has absolutely gone off. His projected targets goes from right around 4.5 targets per game to about 7.5. His catch rate goes up to right around 6 catches per game. And of course, the yardage follows suit as well. So Aaron Jones going to see a sizable increase in workload because Davante Adams is not around. And of course, we get the great price tag because that was updated before the injury news. But now for the Cardinals side of things, for our first stud option, it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins at $10,600. Obviously, he's been injured every single game to this point of the year. That's why we haven't seen quite the numbers that we've been used to seeing from him in the past, but that's eventually going to turn around. When he starts to get his health under him, when he starts to get back to the explosive self that we've been used to seeing, this guy's going to put up some monster performances. So even though he's a little bit expensive for my liking, obviously, given his production, we would have hoped to see a little bit of a better price tag on him, but as a result, not being owned quite where he should be. If he was coming in with massively good form, coming in on a touchdown streak or something like that, you'd see probably 40, even 50% ownership in a $12,000 price tag. So with that being said, with that in the back of our minds, probably not the worst play on the slate. Definitely somebody I'll have my fair share of. At number 2, though, we have Christian Kirk. A little bit of a more intriguing option in my opinion just because of the price tag. Obviously a full $3,400 cheaper. Also somebody who's coming in with lower ownership. Also a relatively high projection. I mean, to this point of the year, Christian Kirk has hardly lagged behind Hopkins in terms of his production. There's been games where Kirk has vastly out-targeted somebody like Hopkins and outperformed him as well. So Christian Kirk is going to be a key part of this offense. He started off a little bit soft in weeks 1 and week 2, but has really turned it on since then. So that's why he makes it there at number 2. But for our number 1 stud play for this Cardinals team, it's no doubt going to be Kyler Murray. He's the most expensive player on the slate by far at $12,000, but that is well warranted. This guy has legit running upside. He's been the number 1 fantasy player in all of the NFL to this point of the year. So no matter the price tag, you essentially want to have this guy in your lineup. So I have him right now projected for 73.9% ownership and nearly 21% ownership at the captain slot. So this guy is essentially going to be lock buttoned by the entire slate. And I don't think you need to get different there. He's definitely somebody you want to have in your lineups and somebody that I'll be invested in heavily for the single game slate. Now for our value plays, I just want to preface this with Valdes-Scantling, if he is active, is of course a great value play. With these value plays in mind though, keep in mind that I am projecting him as out. He has not practiced to this point, and just because he is making that trip does not mean that he's going to start. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Again, we will have that live stream tomorrow night at 6 p.m. We'll cover any of that last second injury news. If he is marked as inactive, if he's marked as active, we'll talk the reaction, if that changes our projections, if at any at all. But with that being said, our number 3 value play is going to be Rondale Moore at $4,800. Being a little bit overlooked, I think, because of Zach Ertz's emergence on this offense. A lot of people think that Moore is going to get less touches, but that's probably not going to be the case. This guy's a little bit of a gadget back for the Cardinals team. Obviously, they're using him on lots of screens. They're using him on a lot of those jet sweeps, that kind of thing, out of the wing position, that sort of thing. So Rondale Moore, he's somebody who has huge play upside every single time he touches the ball. We saw that week 1. We saw that week 3. He's had these massive performances. The only issue is that he doesn't have a ton of usage. He has to take advantage of the small target share that he's getting. But if he goes out there and he's having these explosive plays week in and week out, he's going to get more and more touches. I mean, how could you resist? If the guy's going out there giving you 7 or 8 yards after every single catch, why wouldn't you want him to get him the ball more? So at 12% ownership, he's definitely low enough in terms of leverage right there that you can get over in a recent amount. So for me, Rondale Moore at $4,800 is definitely somebody I'll be playing. At number 2, we have Equanimus St. Brown. I know I butchered that name. Hardest name to say in the NFL. One of the coolest names as well. He's only $600 for this Packers team, and somebody who, if MVS does not end up starting, will be the number 3 wide receiver for this team. He's gotten the most usage of any of the other wide receivers out there. You have Amari Rodgers, who has 2 catches to this point, but only has 2 targets on the entire year. So St. Brown, a lot more likely to get that wide receiver 3 role. And again, at $600, he doesn't have to do much to pay that off. As of right now, I have him projected for just 8 points. But at $600, that is more than enough production. So right now projected to be in 21.5% of lineups and one of my favorite value plays for this single game slate. And now for our number one value play, that is going to be Randall Cobb. Probably could have guessed it at this point. Somebody who's going to be playing the number one wide receiver role for this team, regardless of whether MVS is back or not. So you like to see that. It's going to be MVS proof. He's $3,600, even cheaper than Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Also a very good projection there at 14.1 points. So using somebody like Cobb, potentially going to either a Moore or somebody like a St. Brown will open up more than enough salary to pay for both quarterbacks. So that's what I like about the slate. Even though we have some high-priced players up there at the top, at the very least we have plenty of value to make up for it. So Cobb has been comfortable with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this guy has played how many years now with Aaron Rodgers? He asked for him in the offseason. It was one of his demands to even come back to the team. So you know they have a rapport. You know Aaron Rodgers, without his main weapons, is definitely going to look his way early and often. So again, at a relatively high ownership amount, over a quarter of lineups having Cobb, that's well warranted. I mean, this guy's going to get 5 or 6 catches this game. He's going to get 40 or 50 yards. And even at just a 10 or 11 point projection, even at just 10 or 11 points in reality, that is more than enough to pay off a $3,600 price tag. So I have nothing bad to say about Randall Cobb here. He's going to be my number one value play on this slate. But now for our captain picks. Our third captain is going to be Kyler Murray. Again, probably didn't have to tell you this. The only issue here is the price tag. He's $18,000. Definitely garnering ownership too. Again, I said it before, nearly 21% ownership at the captain slot, but a whopping 36.6 point projection. Could probably leave it right there. The guy could go out there, score 40, even 50 fantasy points at the captain slot and completely break the slate. So the price tag is hefty. It's definitely tough to fit him into lineups there, but definitely something you shouldn't be avoiding. At number 2, we have Christian Kirk at $10,800. A better price tag there, a good $7,200 less than Kyler Murray. Obviously a lot less ownership as well at 7.9% ownership. Also somebody who has a respectable projection. Again, to this point of the year, he's been a lot more productive than people have given him credit for. This guy's good after the catch. He's good at high pointing the ball deep down the field. Can essentially do it all. And in one of these high scoring games where we have a high over under, that sort of thing, a lot of times you want to fit in as many of these stud options as possible. And taking somebody like Kyler Murray at captain, that $7,200 difference makes a massive difference. That's a whole stud option of difference in your lineup. So if Christian Kirk goes out there, gets you 2 touchdowns, 100 yards, that kind of thing, that is going to be more than enough to make him the optimal captain over somebody like Kyler Murray who might even score more fantasy points. It's just that $7,200 difference is a massive deal here. So that's why Christian Kirk comes in at number 2, just ahead of Kyler Murray. But for our number 1 captain play, this isn't even close. This is the one that I'm going to have the most exposure to by far. It's going to be Aaron Jones. I'm going to have him in over half my lineups this week. A lot of it just comes down to price tag. Again, he's $13,500. So a little bit more expensive than Christian Kirk, but the projection is vastly different. You can see he has over a 30-point projection here at the captain slot. Also not garnering as much ownership as I would have expected, especially given the injury situation here for this Packers team. I thought he was going to be on 25, even 30% at the captain slot, and that's just not the case. A lot of people are trying to fit in Kyler Murray. A lot of people are even going to Aaron Rodgers at captain, which, again, I don't hate those plays. They just come with a massive cost. They also come with a massive amount of ownership behind them. So for me, I'd rather go to Aaron Jones, who is going to get a ton of usage out of the backfield as a wide receiver. We know he's going to get 15 to 25 rushes per game. And overall, not only does he give you a very high floor on the slate, but also an extremely high ceiling. I mean, typically, Davante Adams takes away from that ceiling. We know that he's going to get 40, even 45% of the touches for that offense. But without him in the mix, Aaron Jones is going to soak up a ton of that. So his ceiling much higher in this game than it would have been if Davante Adams was active. So that's why he's the number 1 captain here for the slate. That's all for my Thursday night football picks, guys. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments who you've got as your favorite captain pick for this single game slate. Obviously for me, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's Aaron Jones, but go ahead and let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. I always love to get some debate going down there. As always as well, I appreciate your support here on the channel. If you guys haven't already liked the video, if you haven't already gotten a chance to subscribe to the channel, I highly recommend you guys do so. We're always posting NFL content on here for the Showdown slates. We have tons of main slate content from core picks, value picks, fades and sleepers, all that kind of stuff. Golf content every week, UFC content, and NBA content to come. So a one-stop shop here for all the DFS sports that you're looking for. So if you enjoy database content like this, if you enjoy the way that I project games, make sure to go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of that. We're going to have that live stream tomorrow, as I already mentioned before. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to cover any last-second injuries. We'll cover the Valdes-Scantling news. We'll make some lineups live for you there on the live stream. And, of course, answer any live questions that you have. That's the best part about the live chat. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any lineups that you want me to review or anything like that, make sure to bring them along and we'll make our lineups together tomorrow night. But with that being said, good luck with all of your fantasy lineups for this single game slate, and I'll see you guys next time.